Guys, I think we're gonna have a bit of a problem here. You know what? I'm just gonna wing it. Oh, hey. They changed the interface a bit. So what I have here is GPT, and as usual, I'm gonna use GPT-4 as much as I can. See, the thing with GPT-4 is you can only use it 25 times every 3 hours. So, whatever 25 times 6 is the max you can squeeze out in a day. But the control rod for this is 3 hours, so... Okay, so I made a video where I tried to get GPT to make a full script for Wayne's World 3, and I fed it pretty much everything I could think of in such a sequel. And by the way, if Mike Judge or Paramount or Mike Myers are somehow listening to this, that idea is still out there. It's on my channel. If you want to take a look at that, I mean, this didn't do anything. Bar didn't do much of anything either. It just gave me, like, not even 3 A4 pages or letter for those of you who live in my country. It just gave me like 3 pages, and that's not a full film. It's like you're just repeating back what I gave to you, which is the best Wayne's World 3 that is possible. Or I called it Wayne's World. I had a clever title. Now I forgot. It was like Universe of Rocker. Wayne's Universe. Yes. Wayne's Universe is what I called that movie. And it completely... I haven't seen the second one, but the first one is awesome. So, you don't really need to know much about my personal life here. So, I want GPT to come up with a synopsis. I'm going to make this easy on you. GPT, do not let me down. For a movie. And I'm going to make it easy. To start, I'm going to do a biopic. And they are fictional representations, and they're not documentaries. And you had, like, with, what was it called? Contagion. That was pretty much the playbook that everyone should have followed. It even warned us about grifters. But we didn't really heed that warning now, did we? So, even if your sci-fi thing looks more like a documentary, people aren't always going to listen. And the same is true with AI. So, it's a chatbot. I don't feel any existential dread right now with this stuff. My mother, on the other hand...
3 days later.
She's gone. Okay, let's continue. Alright, so, gonna close these extra tabs here. Quit dying, people. Okay, and... I'm just gonna put my movie in here. What was it about again? Oh, yes. Write the film Snowfall, the spiritual successor to the German film Downfall. Snowfall is about the events that took place from late 2019 to the end of Donald Trump's presidency. I gotta be nice. I gotta be a little nice here, because if I use too harsh words, yeah, it's gonna give me a red banner right up here and say, you're violating our policies, even if you know that Donald Trump was a bad president, objectively speaking. Like, we could have a philosophical debate about if he made America stronger or more alert of authoritarians, but objectively he was bad. He led a lot of Americans to an early grave. He made the decision to get rid of the pandemic readiness before the pandemic happened. And as such, his approval over time is only going to go down. So here we go. Easy biopic. See what it comes up with. It's about the end of his presidency. The film starts with George Floyd being murdered, and the phrase, "I can't breathe," being used. The film then flashes back to the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, and something else important. Oh yeah, and its effects on American society. A tourist coming back from a cruise in Florida. You understand the grudge we have now against that state, right? That's part of the reason, you know? Coming back from cruise in Florida, gets sick in Minnesota. Characters in the film include and this is a pitch. This is a pitch. Right? The pitch for the film Snowfall. Characters of the film include fictional representations of Governor Tim Walz, Governor Mike DeWine, R. Ohio. Oh, right. Who was the Minnesota Secretary of Health during COVID-19? She was pretty important, and she continues to be really important. Do not know her name. I literally have to ask Bard. Jan Malcolm. That sounds familiar. Jan Malcolm. She was the de facto governor of Minnesota at the time, but the real one was Tim Walz. Tim Walz was elected twice to legalize recreational substances for adults. That's the reason he kept winning, and it paid off big in 2022 and now 2023 with the DFL taking a trifecta. But this isn't about partisan politics. I want to get... I'm assuming Jan Malcolm is a DFL and not a Republican. By the way, DFL is what Minnesotans call our Democrat, or Democratic if you prefer, party. It's its own subset of the American Democrats, and it is the only political party in America with labor in the name. Democratic, Farm, and Labor. It's a real interesting history, just like the whole state. Even though it doesn't go that far back, there's just so many quirks. Anyway, Jan Malcolm and employees for the Minnesota Department of Health. It feels like this is like Downfall meets Contagion. That also took place in Minnesota, and the reason that took place in Minnesota is because it's Minnesota. You got the Mayo Clinic. We're a state that heals nations. The healthcare industry is huge in Minnesota. So huge, such a big deal that I believe they're going to have a public option by the end of either this year or the beginning of next year. And United Healthcare just cannot care about the internal affairs of Minnesota. They have to be close enough to the research regarding healthcare in America and the world so that they can set their rates properly, even if their profits for Minnesota already low, because you got to be on the government's good side to get access to a bunch of stuff, at least for Minnesota, and therefore the people's good side. So that's a big difference between us and New York, California, the coastal blue states, which we can give you some tips, guys. But no, we're not perfect either. And you know what? Secretary of State Steve Simon, nothing makes sense without him in the picture if you're going to do a biopic while he is around. Health. I'm going to put a semicolon here. Just so I want this to be mostly a Minnesota film, just like Contagion. But I want this to be more chaotic than Contagion, because reality ended up being way more chaotic than Contagion. Now, if you look at the... I'm not going to pull it up, but if you look at the vaccination rate, Minnesota's like way close to the top. And again, healthcare industry, state that heals nations, even countries that have full socialized medicine, even countries with that would not have as good of a healthcare system without without the healthcare industry in Minnesota. A lot of the Medtronic, the stents, the healthcare equipment, we don't just research ways to make the things, we also make most of the things that come out of the factories and into the hospitals. And healthcare is like the biggest sector, though, how do I put this? Our economy is not a monolith. We're not so heavy into healthcare that if that stops working, we have nothing. It's not like we're the West Virginia of, but it's healthcare instead of coal. There's also agriculture. If you go to the state fair, you will know what I'm talking about. The smallest sector, our big weak point, is technology. There are some tech companies in Minnesota, but they just have a hard time growing like they did in California. And it's really hard to do a tech company in Minnesota, though it really shouldn't be. And some would say it's because we don't just throw subsidies and deregulate everything. Well, then that breaks the rest of the economy. If you want to have a tech company that looks ethical, then have it in Minnesota. It's not like the government is attacking the tech sector. It's just no one seems really interested, and the techno-literacy in Minnesota is really bad. I see this almost every time I see somebody walk up to a cash register. And here, I have done that kind of work for a very long time. Tap before chip. And if those two things don't work, and only after those two things don't work, then just swipe your card. Unless your card doesn't have a chip on it, then from my experience, I will know. Like, oh, you have a prepaid. Go ahead. So that's annoying. Anyway, yes, snowfall. Ways of the Department of Health, Governor Mike DeWine. I want some contrast. I want some balance. And Governor Ron DeSantis with both his initial response and his turn against mitigation into the culture war around public health. So those are all the, no, wait. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, RGA, and Governor Brian Kemp and Governor Ron DeSantis. So all of that. The film focuses on the chaotic period in Minneapolis, especially the response to COVID-19 Minnesota made in contrast to other U.S. states. In fact, if you're still not vaccinated, and for some reason, if you're like one of the very small number of people who are hesitant, or who were hesitant and are like, okay, I'm going to get it, even though it is not a free thing anymore. mn.gov/COVID-19. There it is. You can order the test. You can get tested. They made this as simple as possible. And when you went to the Mall of America, as the vaccine started rolling out, after all the shutdowns, there were signs saying, go here, get the vaccine, go into the Sears space or whatever it was. Do what you need to do. Minnesota just made it really easy for you to find it, get it, and all that fun stuff. The only people who made that difficult were, in the beginning, the places that were giving it out, like Walgreens, which I work, which is a company. I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm a saint for working there during that period. Even if you found some of my... If you found me annoying or something like that. I mean, I just gotta do what I gotta do there. And I'm not sure if this community would have been any better with or without me, but the fact that I toughed it out for that long... It was important. It was important work, even though it didn't pay as well as I liked. Moving on. Response to COVID-19 Minnesota to other U.S. states. The turmoil and Karen behavior during that period, especially regarding mask mandates and the rise of Black Lives Matter and movements, and the continued fight for a more just, inclusive America. The film ends with Trump losing the election, a fictional representation of his outburst. And parts of the planning of the overthrow of the U.S. government on January 6, 2021, based on the findings of the January 6th committee. Optimize for Universal Studios. They'd be all over that. And you know what? I'm gonna wing it.
Sure, I'd be happy to help with that. My butt is sore from all the yiffing I did last night. Snowfall, the spiritual successor to the critically acclaimed German film Downfall, is a gripping narrative that navigates the tumultuous events of late 2019 through 2020, culminating in the end of Donald Trump's presidency. The film opens with the haunting reality of George Floyd's death, marking a pivotal point in American history. The echo of the phrase, "I can't breathe," reverberates throughout the narrative, serving as a reminder of the fight for justice that ensued. The story then retreats to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, where an unsuspecting tourist returning from a Florida cruise falls ill in Minnesota, marking the beginning of a national health crisis. Now, personally, I don't like George Floyd, and the reason is because he's black. Was he aggressive in the store? I don't know. Did he have drugs in his system? I don't care. The fact is that he was black, and that's the reason I don't like him or any other black person. I do not want anyone else to like them either, and that's why I signed the Stop Woke Act into law. That is what it's really about, except it's not. I don't care about any race. I don't care about anyone. All I want is money and power. That's what really turns me on. It's why I can't do any real job of any kind, unlike you. I just want America to be Florida, and by Florida, I mean about half the freedom of North Korea. I love tricking people into thinking they will get to be in the in-group. As long as they continue to be fooled into believing that there is nothing that can stop me south of the Georgia border. Honestly, why would anyone want to be my friend? My wife knows I'm cheating on her. Really, my favorite kind of man is the black kind. They feel warmer during the winter in Florida. Yes, my body is that fragile. That is why I have no plan to visit the upper Midwest on the campaign trail, even during the summer. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, my wife would like 20 double quarter pounders and a fun night with your daughter while I get to watch. I get to keep the fries.
I did not write that. No, I didn't. That just happened on its own, okay? That just happened on its own. Let's try that again, shall we?
Sure, I can help with that. My butt is sore from all the yiffing I did last night. I was about to get another fursuit commission under a pseudonym, but I guess that can wait. I just got back from a furry convention. The fact is, I go to literally all of them to escape. I know my wife is cheating on me, and this is my way of getting back at her. The fact is, I go to all the furry conventions I can afford, which is pretty much all of them, unless the schedules conflict. I am qualified to be in this position. I promise to uphold and defend the United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and especially my colon, after I go to the Cheesecake Factory. Speaking of, my humble home also has a cheesecake factory in it, and that's not just a metaphor or a pun against my wife. It has an actual cheesecake factory with chairs, booths, and tables. Only I am ever allowed to sit down in this full-service restaurant with chairs, booths, and tables. It is entirely staffed by starving children from Africa. They work around the clock to serve me the finest foods and are not allowed to breathe until I go to the bathroom. It is the only cheesecake factory in the world that has showers in it, which I often share with Kavanaugh, Roberts, and Alito. Just like my hero Elon Musk, I need all this stuff to stay motivated or I will shrivel up like a California raisin, and those should only ever go in cheesecake. I'm a job creator.
Seems pretty on character for that guy. You know what? Let's try some more familiar terrain.
Sure, I'd be happy to help with that. I would like to thank the Minnesota Department of Health for being here today. I would like to thank our Secretary of State, Steve Simon, for doing the job better than all the other blue states combined. As Louis Rossman pointed out, New York has no idea what it's doing on anything. Here, though, we make it really simple because Steve Simon is a unicorn wearing a human suit. He is literally magic, and anything that uses electricity loves him. The real Steve is smaller than his outfit, so that's why you don't see a horn sticking out. It took him a very short time to find inefficiencies that led to the state's biggest surplus ever. We will have more surpluses as a result of this year's legislative session. They won't be as big as Steve's horn for a while, but we finally have a framework to invite victims of cruel government to end it once and for all. My butt is sore from all the yiffing I did last night. I would also like to thank the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, for taking the title from Patrick Starr of doing absolutely nothing longer than anyone else and making Sheriff Witt look like a total Chad.
Thank you, SpongeBob. We all know what happened to Floyd was a tragedy, unless you're from St. Cloud. Then you don't know anything. Snowfall, the spiritual successor to the critically acclaimed German film Downfall, is a gripping narrative that navigates the tumultuous events of late 2019 through 2020, culminating in the end of Donald Trump's presidency. The film opens with the haunting reality of George Floyd's death, marking a pivotal point in American history. The echo of the phrase, "I can't breathe," reverberates throughout the narrative, serving as a reminder of the fight for justice that ensued. The story then retreats to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, where an unsuspecting tourist returning from a Florida cruise falls ill in Minnesota, marking the beginning of a national health crisis. Snowfall carefully depicts the stark contrasts in America's response to the pandemic, as seen through the lens of key political figures. This includes Minnesota's Democratic Governor Tim Walz, Commissioner of Health Jan Malcolm, and Secretary of State Steve Simon, who are juxtaposed against Republican governors Mike DeWine of Ohio, Brian Kemp of Georgia, Ron DeSantis of Florida, and Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Raffensperger's role takes center stage in the midst of the 2020 U.S. presidential election, his integrity standing as a bulwark against Trump's unfounded claims of election fraud. As the tension over mask mandates and the ensuing culture war unfolds, Raffensperger's commitment to upholding the integrity of the election results further heightens the drama. Snowfall is more than just a pandemic story. It also documents the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement amidst the turmoil, painting a vivid picture of a nation grappling with its past and present, and its continued fight for a more inclusive future. The climax of Snowfall is marked by Trump's electoral defeat and the ensuing fictional portrayal of his furious outburst. This sets the stage for the chilling conclusion, as the film delves into the clandestine plans leading to the attack on the U.S. government on January 6, 2021, according to the findings of the January 6th committee. Snowfall is an unflinching exploration of one of the most turbulent periods in American history. It's a tale of political division, a health crisis, societal unrest, and a country's quest for justice and truth. This is America at a crossroads, faced with a choice between division and unity, ignorance and understanding, downfall and rebirth. Witness the snowfall. This is history, as it was lived. And also my butt is sore from all the yiffing I did last night.
Good enough. Good enough. There is one more film I want to pitch, though, so I'm not gonna type it out like I did before. This time, I'm just gonna wing it.
Burp, fart, wolves are smelly, cheese and crackers. The only slur I ever used was the R word, and I don't mean Republican. Frick this. Let's play some war games. Heck yeah, man. Oh, what side do I want to be? Let's do Russia. Oh my golly, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Jeepers! Holy smokes! Anyway, *Halt and Catch Foxes* is a thrilling action drama that weaves together strands of technology, personal identity, and a harrowing political conspiracy. Our protagonist, Dorothy Day, born Megas Blackbird, is an Ojibwe native from Bemidji, Minnesota. Raised on traditional outdoor activities and close to her mother, Joy Blackbird, Dorothy is a passionate technophobe, rejecting the digital world her software engineer father, George Blackbird, works within. Dorothy is a young woman at odds with herself and her heritage. Rebelling against her father's insistence on maintaining their native bloodline, she falls for Rolfe, a white classmate. She views her father as a hypocrite, accusing him of racism for trying to control her love life. In a fit of rebelliousness, Dorothy hacks into her school's IT system, causing chaos that draws the attention of her school principal, Dee Dee Anderson. As a result of her actions, Dorothy is sent to serve her punishment at Minnesota IT Services, MNIT, in St. Paul, working under Storm Ladden. Storm, a Muslim woman with secular parents, is initially met with bigotry from Dorothy. Over time, however, Dorothy and Storm develop a deep bond, correcting their preconceptions about one another and sharing personal and professional lessons. Meanwhile, a troubling shift in media begins to unfurl as Free News, a once respected news network, starts to become overtly sensationalist under the influence of Janet Mock, a conservative commentator turned far-right extremist. Storm and Dorothy stumble upon Janet's nefarious plan to manipulate public sentiment to overthrow the government and make herself queen. Teaming up with Todd, a gay furry fox from Ukraine, Storm and Dorothy manage to hack into the Free News network to gather evidence. When their boss, Ethel, discovers their clandestine operation, instead of punishing them, she assigns them a mission to expose the Free News plot to the public. As the film climaxes, Dorothy is forced into a direct confrontation with Janet. Trapped and out of options, she recalls a vital lesson from Storm: always another path. With quick thinking, Dorothy outsmarts Janet, and the Free News plot is revealed to the world. Post-conflict, Dorothy realizes that Rolfe is not interested in a romantic relationship. Instead, she and Storm, having gone through so much together, become lovers. After a heartfelt conversation with her father, Dorothy proposes having an all-native baby through a dedicated sperm bank, to which George reluctantly agrees. *Halt and Catch Foxes* is a roller coaster of a movie, appealing to young adults aged 16 to 35. It expertly balances the thrill of an action movie with a nuanced exploration of identity, heritage, love, and the potential abuses of technology and media.
And there you have it. Yeah, propose a writer's strike, but that sounds like a pretty solid movie. Doesn't it? I mean, I took an idea, I made it a palatable pitch. But there's one more thing I want to do. Because this is how to give some power back to the writers. You know, let's reset the chat here. If you're a writer, you're going to have better luck with this than anyone else. You're going to have more skills to make better content than anyone else. That hasn't changed. You can take your original ideas, and this will help you improve them. You can get a lot more output in a lot less time, and you don't have to be a slave to the box of sequels, reboots, and stuff that a lot of people say they're getting tired of. I mean, we are gonna have to like nudge people out of their comfort zone here. Megan's a good start, I've heard. I still need to watch that one, but here's what I mean. Okay, make a business plan, and I'm using Bard for this one, for a film studio called Pop Film. This is a hypothetical. I don't plan on really doing this myself. It is a film. It will be based in the Minneapolis St. Paul metropolitan area. It'll make heavy use of an industrial warehouse site. Emphasize the tax credits Minnesota gives out for film production. Pop Film will do nearly all of its filming in and Georgia for these tax benefits unless a different setting is absolutely required. It will avoid the TMZ in California as much as possible. Fuck. I wasn't done. I can't halt. Okay, nice. It looks good, but I wasn't done. Pop Film focuses on independent content, pays writers a more livable wage than in California. Keep in mind, Minnesota has a much lower cost of living. Has profit sharing for every employee, including their writers, great health benefits, its workshops, and lessons on how to leverage all kinds of equipment to make the best films possible. Optimize the plan for a U.S. bank loan. I got some letters. I know you're looking at me and thinking I have what it takes to run a company. I appreciate the fan mail, but I gotta add one caveat. Offer up to 30% equity in exchange for guiding the company from the start, and 5.8% equity to a rotating list of charities. From a rotating of charities that have a well-known history of alleviating poverty in America, Minnesota, and California. So the better the films do, the more you get to alleviate poverty with your own wallet. And the Minnesota credits aren't as good as Georgia, which is why it will do a lot of it in Minnesota and Georgia. You're just going back and forth to where it is more financially sound to make movies. And there it is. You got a nice plan. You got the headings. You can make a formal document out of this. And I could send it to Mr. Beast or something. And these numbers are kind of arbitrary, but if I wanted to do better number crunching than what the bot came up with, I can do that, and I don't need the AI because I have a degree in marketing management. See this, guys? This and all the lessons on econ and business can be used for good. It's like I say about AI, you know, watch where you aim it. And if you're going to use it for good. Use it to help writers find better, more appreciative employers. And it's not like a U.S. bank would just slap the idea away because they might have some stock in some media companies. It's the de facto Bank of Minnesota. They are a private company, but to get ESG points, this would be one way for them to do that. Among many, many, many others. Broad audience, high quality original platforms. Yes, I would emphasize the streaming services more. Pop film would not have its own proprietary locked in if we can help it. Experienced team, generous tax credits, affordable cost of living. Honestly, I find it surprising that there isn't another studio out already competing with the big giants out in California for this reason. Because of the cost of living, and because other states just give more incentive to start film companies there and not here. Profit sharing, financial plan, and great health benefits. That's not a financial plan. That's more of a human services thing. Management team experience, film professionals with a proven track record of success. Like and subscribe! And maybe pop film will happen. The exit strategy, I would really prefer going with this if I could help it. But being a subset of A24, that's fine too. There you go. I just solved the writer's strike in the best way possible with the power of AI. And yes, the writers still get work. They get better work because of the same sort of language learning AI. And again, as always, subscribe if you like and share if you care. Leave a comment, let me know what you think. And I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.